Good morning. My name is Erin Lurie, and I am the Adult Audiences Manager here at Hillwood Estate Museum and Gardens. We are delighted to be gathering virtually this morning and able to share some of Hillwood's beautiful holiday decor. It is a fabulous time to visit here, and I do hope that those of you who are in the DC area will come and see us. We do currently require advanced reservations with timed entry as a way to help us manage safe capacity. The Merriweather To Go Cafe is open. We also have the museum shop. All of these spaces are open and available, though they do have capacity limits. So we do hope that you'll come and join us. You can make your reservations online or by calling our office to set a time to come and visit. Today, we're going to be walking through the beautiful Christmas trees that Amy Wilber led the design process for. There will be lots of opportunities to ask your questions as we go along. Please submit those through the chat feature. And at the end of each section with the tree, I'll have a chance to stop and ask Amy some questions before we move on. You'll see that chat icon towards the bottom of your screen. You may need to move your mouse or tap the screen to make it come up. And with that, I am thrilled to pass us off to Amy Wilber.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today on our tree tour. I know that this is a little bit different because you are not able to be here in person, but if you are in the DC area, we highly encourage you to come and visit our trees and see all of the decorations that we've put up for this season. But in lieu of actually doing this in person, I think this will be the next best thing. And I'm really excited to talk about all of the trees, the concept of how we go about planning for the themes, and also how we actually decorate the trees. This year, we decided that the trees would be based off of two things. So we have a Natural Beauties exhibit that's going on right now, and the tree in the visitor center is based off of that theme. And then the ones in the mansion are based off of this amazing book that our director, Kate Marjorie, wrote this year, and it's called A Garden for All Seasons. And so the 4 trees that we have in the mansion are based off of the 4 seasons that are in the book. And everything from the book in terms of the pictures and what you'll see in the book, we try to represent in the trees. Again, like Erin had mentioned, after each tree, I'm gonna take a brief pause, and that'll be a great time to answer any questions that you have at that time. So with that, let's get started, and we're going to start in the entry hall of the mansion. So the entry hall in the mansion, we really wanted it to be something that when you first walk in, you really get a sense of what the theme of the trees is going to be all about. The entry hall is based off of the season autumn. So one of the things that I love in the fall is the ginkgo tree, which is pictured in the middle picture that you have there in the slide presentation. And the ginkgo tree is absolutely beautiful. It's an amazing sort of staple of Hillwood. It's at the base of the cutting garden. It's right across from the greenhouse. And so it's something that you see almost immediately when you come onto property. So I wanted that to be represented again as you first walk into the mansion to get a sense of that connection from the outside to the inside. So what I did was take the ginkgo leaves. They're all permanent botanicals. We don't have any live flowers on the tree this year, but I used that as the tree topper. So one of the things that I wanted to think about when decorating all of the trees, especially in the mansion and having them tied to the theme of each season, was how was it going to be representative in terms of the color, in terms of what we were using for materials. So everything in the trees that you'll see is something that you would actually see at Hillwood, either in our cutting garden or on property. So again, it was really fun to sort of try and take this theme and understand how we were going to represent it as a three-dimensional tree within the mansion. So the next slide I have is a close-up. So you can really see what the tree topper looks like with the ginkgo leaves. And then here's another good sort of example of some of the chrysanthemums that we have in autumn. There's also gourds and leaves. And again, we really wanted it to have a autumn feel. So it's all of these golds and oranges and rust colors. And then the other thing with when you're first walking into the mansion is that you'll see we've also decorated for the holiday as well. So we put out seasonal poinsettias around the bust and then also in other areas in the mansion. We also did a garland with a wreath that when you look sort of up the stairs, you'll see, and again, that all ties into the same theme of autumn. And so we're using the same material from the tree into the garland as well. And then this is just a couple of different perspectives of the tree. You'll see that we did some pumpkins along the bottom of the tree, and we also have some gourds in the tree as well. The one on the left side is from the library looking in, or looking out, I guess you could say, to the entry hall. And then the other one is from the top of the staircase from upstairs looking down. And you'll see kind of, it's a little bit hard to see, it kind of blends in, but I'll put my little pointer there. There's also the what we call the kissing ball that's right here where my arrow is. And so we have that actually decorated with hydrangea that was from property that has been dried. Okay, so the next thing when we go into our little tree tour is going to be taking us into the pavilion, which is represented by winter. Winter is often thought of as like not a time where you would actually see a lot that's on property, but there are some really wonderful and amazing things that we have either growing during the winter or that we have on property. One of the things that I really wanted to sort of express with this tree was the feeling of being cozy and kind of warm in the wintertime. So one of the things that was really kind of fun that we did last year was we made this giant knitted kind of blanket that we used as one of the tree skirts. So I was able to repurpose that this year and use that as the tree skirt for the winter tree. One of the things that I was trying to, again, sort of think about was, you know, how do you make winter feel cozy? And again, with this next slide, you'll see this is actually the tree topper. And these are all orchids. I'm gonna get back to that in a second, but I'm just gonna show you. So this is the tree skirt on your right side. And again, it's that sort of feeling of like a sweater, just sort of like being wrapped around you. And then we also have these amazing sort of knit cable sweater ornaments that are on the left side. And again, that is sort of something to sort of mimic that idea of winter and sort of getting cozy and feeling warm. In this slide, you can also see a detail of the hellebores. So hellebores are something that we have on campus everywhere. And it's something that typically blooms around February, March. So we wanted to represent that. And then also, I'm gonna go back one slide. Also, you can see that there are like cabbages and kales that are in there. And those are something that we have, again, all along property that you'll be able to see in the winter time. The other thing in winter is that we have our amazing orchids that are typically blooming the end of February into March. And so we wanted to represent orchids as a winter item as well. So we decided that we would use the orchids as a tree topper for this tree in the pavilion. So again, you know, one of the things that we're trying to do is to also take each theme for each tree and really bring it to life, and trying to do that in terms of like, how do you make a season into a design, into a tree. So again, we wanted these to feel, holiday-ish as well. So we also wanted to put in things like different kinds of ornaments and, to sort of highlight or accent either the colors that could be picked up into the room or something that sort of fits in with the theme as well. So I'm gonna go back.
Amy, we've got a
Yes,
couple of questions.
sure.
Elaine asked how some of the natural cuttings, like the ginkgo, or you mentioned the hydrangeas in the kissing ball, were preserved from things on property. How
So the only
are
thing that
you
was
preserved?
The only thing that was preserved was the hydrangea. So everything else in all of the trees is 100% a permanent botanical. So those are actually silk ginkgo leaves. They're not actually ginkgo leaves from our tree. But the way we preserve a lot of the flowers and the hydrangea in particular is we cut it and then I don't put it into any water. I keep it into a vase and just let it dry naturally. We've also done that with some of the gomphrena or other things from the cutting garden. And what we'll typically do is either hang them upside down and just let them dry naturally, or if they're like really kind of big and heavy, like the hydrangea, then I'll typically just have that in a vase to try and dry it that way.
That's great. And we also got a question about where the trees come from.
These are all, again, permanent botanical trees. So they came
That's for
from,
those of you at home, that's the polite and professional term for fake.
yes. So these trees, a lot of them were already here when I first started working here. So they came from different vendors, but I think some of the newer ones that we just recently got are from Balsam Hill, which is a place that sells all kinds of amazing trees that are pre-lit or unpre-lit.
Excellent. And one last question that just came in. Roberta asked whether we have any ornaments from Marjorie Post's time and whether you use any of those on trees.
So if anything was actually from her collection, that would be in collections. And the one thing that you sort of need to like think about and keep in mind in terms of Hillwood is that she technically wasn't here at Hillwood during the winter time. So any decorations that she would have been down at Mar-a-Lago. We have things that are sort of vintage, I would say, from a similar time to when she was here at Hillwood, but nothing in terms of that's on the tree is actually from her collection.
Fabulous. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so the next room that we're going to go into is the French drawing room. And the French drawing room is represented by spring. So one of the things, again, that we're really trying to do when we're going into thinking about how we're going to design the tree, what it's going to look like, is how it's going to fit into the room specifically. I like to think of it as if you were to have a tree that was decorated up in your room all year long, is it going to still sort of blend in and fit into the decor of the rest of the room? So with the French drawing room, when we decided that it was going to be spring, was a relatively easy color palette to translate from the garden into the tree. Because the French drawing room has a lot of these pinks, it really blends in nicely. The other thing that's kind of fun about the one tree in the French drawing room, it's a little bit different than our other ones. The branches come out a little bit more. It's a little bit more, I like to say, leggy in terms of the branches coming out. But the other thing that I think is really fun about this tree is if you were to flip it upside down, it has a very similar shape to the chandeliers that are in the room as well. So again, because it's spring, one of the most iconic things, especially here in DC during spring, is the cherry blossoms. We have amazing cherry blossoms here on property as well. So the top of the tree is covered in cherry blossoms. And then if you have a closer look, you can kind of see some of the other flowers that are in the tree as well. A little bit underneath the cherry blossoms at the very top, if you can kind of get a sense of it, we also have azaleas, because azaleas are one of the things that we have so many of here at Hillwood, and they're absolutely amazing and spectacular, especially when they bloom. So I really wanted to bring in to make sure that we had the azaleas and the cherry blossoms represented in the tree. Another thing that we have in the tree is we have tulips, obviously, for springtime, and then we have peonies as well. And then if you look at the picture on the right-hand side, it's sort of a bigger image of the French drawing room, so you can kind of get a sense of how the tree looks in the room and how it kind of fits into the color scheme and also the decor. And here's I guess it's a little bit blurry, but here's an up close, again, detail of some of the flowers that we have decorated the tree with. You can see the tulips and the azaleas and the peonies as well.
Okay. Amy, we just got a question about whether you do color sketches when you're starting to design a tree.
Excellent question. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that, especially with the dining room, because I think the dining room was one of the rooms where you really have to think in terms of the color scheme for the tree and how it's going to fit into everything else that is in the room as well. So the dining room is represented by summer. And again, this was something, the idea I really wanted to kind of express with this tree in particular is how lush and amazing our cutting garden is during the summertime. So I wanted this feeling of how do I make the cutting garden look like a three-dimensional tree that's been decorated for the holiday. And so if you go into the cutting garden during the summer, you'll see these like groups of like amazing dahlias. You'll see groups of different flowers that are kind of clustered in together. So I wanted to take that sort of theme and then use that as a way to actually decorate the tree. The tree in the dining room is relatively massive. So there's a couple of different things that have to be taken into consideration with the dining room tree. So one is that when you first walk into the dining room, you're going to get one glimpse of the tree. But then as you round the corner of the actual dining table, you're going to see a different perspective of the tree. So I wanted to make sure that both perspectives of that tree were really interesting and also presented the same theme that I wanted people to see when they're understanding that this was representative of summer. So one of the ways that we do that is by how we actually go about decorating the tree. And because again, this is a relatively massive sized tree, you want it to have a lot of depth and you want it to have dimensionality to that. So one of the ways that we do that is by first going in with some of our really larger ornaments and sort of tucking those into the branches a little bit. So that was like the gold balls, the red balls, and these sort of like big clusters of hydrangea. And then from there, we'll go in with our second tier, which is going to be the roses and the dahlias, and they're going to stick out slightly from that first layer. And then after that, we're going to go in with the final touches, which is, you can see this amaranthus, which is a long kind of green hanging thing. And then that's coming out from the branches even further, and also the snapdragons that you see in the tree as well. So all of those are actually coming out a little bit past the branches. And so when you have those three different layers of ornaments, you really get like a nice feeling of depth within the tree. And then the other thing that we had to think about in terms of the dining room tree was how it was going to fit in with what was on the dining room table. So this year we have this amazing dining room table display, and it has all of these reds and gold colors in it. So I had to think about what was going to be on the dining room table and how we were going to take a color scheme from the dining room table, match it to the tree, but also relate it to the theme, which was going to be summer. So what I decided was that I was going to limit the color palette to just reds, burgundies, that sort of white and cream color, greens and golds. And those color schemes are very, I think, holiday-ish in feeling, but they also are flowers that we have in the cutting garden at the height of summer that are very much representative of summer. So again, the beautiful dahlias that we have cafe au lait dahlias, and then we also have these like red burgundy dahlias. So I took all of those things and kind of tried to put that all together and to see how that would work in terms of being able to tie everything in. And then the flowers that are actually in the containers for the dining room table are flowers that are from the tree. So that also helps to tie in the tree to the dining room table as well. And this is just a close-up you can see, and it's a little bit, I think it can kind of show sort of the layers and how things are, again, coming out from the tree actually, and how they're sort of like wedged into the tree as well. And again, we wanted to use things like these colorful balls and like all of these different elements to really enhance the tree as well. And then this is yet another perspective of the tree on the left side. And then on the right side is one of the gardeners in horticulture. This year it was very different for us because we typically have all of our volunteers, my floral volunteers, come and help me, and volunteers from the horticulture department to help us to decorate the trees. But obviously this year we weren't able to do that. So it was just the horticulture staff. We started on Saturday evening, bringing up all of the trees from the downstairs bunker. Starting on Sunday, we started to decorate the trees. We had to like make sure all the lights were working. We brought all of the ornaments over. And then on Monday, all of the trees were fully decorated. And again, there was only 2 to 3 of us per tree. And we were able to get everything decorated and all finished up by, I think, before 3 o'clock in the afternoon on that Monday. So it was a really quick sort of frantic and fast-paced way to go about decorating the tree. But it was it worked out, it worked out well, especially given the circumstances of this year.
Amy,
and then the other, oh, yep.
Anna just asked how you secure the ornaments, whether you use hooks or wires or a combination of both or some other method.
We do both, actually. For a lot of the flowers in the trees, let's go back, we actually just take those and kind of just wedge them into the tree, and the tree is able to support it without having to like actually wire them down. But like the big balls and things like that, we use a combination of either hooks or wires. Some of the really bigger ornaments will actually wrap it around the tree branch just to kind of secure it into place. And then the other thing that's going on in the dining room is, of course, we have the breakfast room. And so with the breakfast room, again, we always try and have the poinsettia display pick up the color scheme of what's happening in the dining room. So this year we were able to get some really nice reds and burgundies, poinsettias, to help fill the dining room and to decorate a dining room with that. And then also we have in the pantry of the mansion, we also decorated that with our poinsettias as well. And again, we're trying to still carry the theme in from the dining room into the pantry. And then the outside, we also do a lot of decorating as well. So the image on the left side is the entrance to the mansion. And we, again, always try and have everything be nice and festive and really get everyone excited about the holiday season. We do all of the swags. We make these swags for the lampposts and wreaths as well that are all along campus, which is represented by the slide on the right side.
And Amy, we've gotten a couple of other questions. The first is where you find your ornaments. And I know that that's a process that starts much earlier than most people would suspect.
Yes, so we start planning our trees typically in late summer. So we'll know obviously like what we're going to base the trees off of in terms of either an exhibition or like this year for it was the book. But what we'll do is we have a huge collection of ornaments that we have from years and years of decorating trees. So I like to try and repurpose as much of those as I can. But then obviously we need to enhance to really like tie it into whatever the theme is. So then I'll go and I'll try and source different places for different things. Um, Lauren, who runs the museum shop, is always a fantastic, fantastic person who helps me to source, you know, where I can find different ornaments and the likes. This year, though, because we were doing mostly permanent botanicals, I was able to just find those at a floral sort of wholesale that does wholesale for permanent botanical flowers. And then the tree in the visitor center, which we're going to get to now, I was able to get that from Lauren from the gift shop. The visitor center tree is based off of our Natural Beauties exhibit. And again, when I was first thinking about like how I was going to decorate a tree based off of natural gemstones, it was a little bit like, I don't know how I would do that. But I was able to get, I remember like seeing these soaps that look just like natural gemstones. And this is, again, I called up Lauren and asked her, I'm like, have you ever seen these soaps that look like gemstones? She's like, oh yeah, yeah. I know how we can get those. So she was able to source those for me. And she ordered 75 of these amazing soap stones, and we use those to help decorate the tree. So a lot of like where I'm sourcing materials is really dependent on what the theme of the tree is. But I know that Lauren goes to, I think, different like fairs and things like that, conventions specifically for holiday decor. And I know it's in Atlanta, I think somewhere, but that's about it.
I know in previous years, Lauren has gone to a conference, I think in late January, to focus on Christmas for the following year.
Yeah.
We also got a question if you could explain a little bit more how you sketch to prep for placing out the flowers on the tree.
So one of the things that I really enjoy about decorating the tree is that I typically come up with this idea and this vision of what the theme of the trees are going to look like. So, for example, we can talk about the visitor center tree. When I was, you know, thinking of like how are we going to represent this exhibit within the tree, the one thing I really wanted to do was have it be super, super colorful and really pick up a lot of those colors that were the gemstone colors, like the blue of the lapis, the purple of the amethyst, the green of the malachite, and then also the gold that is, you know, represented in a lot of the pieces in the exhibit as well. So I decided that it was going to be that kind of a color scheme, and I really wanted to make it super, super colorful. And I wanted this tree to really kind of stand out in terms of like the color and have it to be really kind of fun and festive, especially as you first walk into the visitor center. So then I have this idea, and I have a little PowerPoint presentation of the trees and the different elements that are going to go into the tree, what the concept of the tree is, and the color scheme, and then all of the ornaments that are going to go onto the tree and things that are going to decorate the tree. From there, I really like to give just sort of technical information in terms of like, okay, you're going to start with like the larger objects. Those are going to get sort of wedged in, at the very end, you're going to go in with the much smaller objects or little sort of like little whimsical objects. And that will be at the end so that, you have, again, these layers, like I was talking about how we do the dining room tree. But from there, I really like to leave it up to each of the people who are decorating each different tree. So it's my vision that I have, and then I let them sort of like run with how it is they're going to actually decorate it themselves. And I think that that makes it a little bit more exciting. And I think that it makes for people to be, I think, a little bit more interested in, having a little ownership over the tree and like feeling like they've really contributed. Because, again, without, all of the horticulture staff and in years past, without the volunteers, I couldn't do this by myself in the amount of time that we have to get it done. So it really is something that I like to leave sort of open and let them use their creativity to also decorate the trees. Of course, I'll come by and, be like, oh, okay, like maybe we'll try a little bit more of this or whatever. But again, I really try and let the people in charge of the trees just, run with it. Okay, so the visitor center, here's some close-ups of these soaps that I just thought were absolutely amazing. And the soap sort of presented a little bit of a challenge because they are, large pieces of soap. So we actually took some hooks that we like screwed into the soap, put a little crazy glue on it, and we're able to just wire it to the tree. So that was kind of fun. This is a close-up again of the lapis and then the malachite, and then also the amethyst. And then the tree topper was a lot of fun as well. I think that it really played up on sort of like the whimsical side of, having a massive tree in your visitor center. And again, this year we decided that it would also be kind of fun to have these multicolored lights on the tree, again, to really sort of pick up the different colors that were going to be on the tree, and also just to really make it kind of fun and festive as well. And I think, and this is the last close-up of the tree from the visitor center. Are there any other questions?
Amy, this has been wonderful, and I am always so glad to get a close look at your work. And it's been a pleasure chatting with our visitors this morning. I do have one eye on the clock and want to acknowledge that it is 11 o'clock. So anyone who has to scoot off to another obligation, thank you so much for joining us. Amy and I will absolutely stick around and answer questions. We do have one question that came up is when this will be posted. This video will be available on our YouTube channel within probably by the end of the week. It depends a little bit on how much our fantastic and very busy IT team has on their plate. So hopefully by the end of the week, you can share this video with your friends and family as you encourage those in the DC area to come and visit and share a little piece of Hillwood with those who are out of the area. We do have a great couple of questions coming in. The first, Christine has shared that she loves the reflection of the photographer in this blue, on the blue bulbs in the center of the screen. And I agree. I think that it's such a neat shot, and I really appreciate the close-ups. Dee, I appreciate that you shared that you'll take a slightly different look at the trees the next time you come in. The decorations, I agree, are exquisite, and I have very little to do with them, so I can boast about that. Amy, as I said, Amy and I will stick around for a few more minutes in case there are more questions coming on. Thank you again for joining us and for starting off your Tuesday with us. I hope that we'll see you either virtually or in person at Hillwood very soon.
Yes, happy holidays to everyone. Thank you.
Amy, we just got a question that I think is very similar to asking who your favorite child is. What's
Hmm.
your favorite tree?
So I would have to say that this year I was really taken with the visitor center tree. It was actually the tree that inspired my own tree that I put up at home. I really loved like the big colorful light bulbs on the tree. So I took cue from that and I put those great big like vintage colored light bulbs on my tree. My tree is like 5 feet tall. It's like super skinny and it's just covered in these massive lights. So it's kind of funny looking, but yeah, I just think I think like this year it was a different look for us to use the big colorful light bulbs in the visitor center tree. So I was really excited about that. But I mean, yeah, I love all the trees, but I definitely think that the visitor center tree this year really stood out.
Well, thank you very much. Christine asked if we have any images that we can show all 5 trees together. I don't know if that's already on the website, but I will absolutely pass that suggestion along and see if we can get something where you can see all of them side by side. Though, of course, that's not actually something you can do when you're in person. They're always kind of linked together, but a little bit separate. One last pause to see if there are any